have to.
Good morning, New Eden. Today is February 18th, 2024, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and my co-hosts tonight are going to be Nightflyer and Samson. How's it going, Nightflyer?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. I'm really excited about today's show.
How's life in Samson land?
Good morning, New Eden. I'm not used to that particular transfer
Made that up
there.
on the spot, man. I was like, you know.
I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to be with our esteemed guest today because I am a huge fan, and I promised not to fangirl before the show, but I probably fucking lied. So yeah.
And our special guest, very, very special, super honored to have you on the show here, Rixx Javix. Did I just butcher that?
Totally destroyed that.
Yeah, that was backwards, dude. I apologize for my boss.
It's the way I always say is think of the capital of Iceland and where CCP's headquarters is first, and then it's Rixx Javix.
Rixx Javix.
Like Rixx Javix.
I don't know how to spell or write or talk.
It's okay.
But I run
a
show.
It's all right.
We don't need that.
I'm also dyslexic, so like the shit, like
in
the backwards. And I'm in the Federation.
That's right. Know, so
they accept me for all my.
That's why you hired me. I didn't come from the Federation. I came from the men ugly slave traders.
They just recruit dropouts in the Federation.
So I know.
I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be here and be amongst the Galinti and not being shot at currently, which is great. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I've been seeing you out and about in Hey Die Less, and having fun, kicking ass, taking names. So we normally start this off with let's take the way back machine here.
Sure.
How did you learn about EVE Online? What got you into this game?
Well, it's an interesting story, actually, because I had never, I'd been a gamer my whole life. I've been a gamer my whole life, all the way back to stuff I won't talk about. But I had never played an MMO before. And my son at the time was 14 years old. And he came downstairs and he said, "You have to come up to my room and see this." So you never know what you're going to get when a 14-year-old tells you that. But it could be anything.
It could be really anything.
Yeah, let's not. But this time it was his computer screen had a spaceship on it, and he started rotating it around the hangar. And I said, "What the hell is this? And how do I get a hold of it?" And he said, "Well, that's not even the best part." And he clicked it, and it went outside into space. And I was like, "Yeah." So he told me what it was. I went downstairs, downloaded a copy for myself, and we both created our characters that day, and been playing ever since.
So what year was that? Was that 2008 or
September 2008?
Yeah. Okay, yep. I was just looking at your kill board and I noticed that it didn't go all the way back to the beginning of 2008. I was like, so I bet you it was around 2008 that he started.
Yeah, right, about a month after the Mac version came out, because we play on Macintosh, so. I couldn't have played even if I'd wanted to before that, because I don't play on a PC.
So what was the main draw that you had? What was the thing that kind of really enticed you to stick with you?
Well, honestly, I mean, it was right away. It was the 3D spaceships on your computer, right? I mean, and then realizing slowly over time that all the red dots in space were actual human beings, and people like yourselves on the other ends of other computers.
Bunch of assholes.
Yeah, I mean. I'd played I had a company at the time that had 40 employees, and we played LAN parties during lunch, like 2 or 3 days a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
We would do like Unreal Tournament,
yes!
everybody and things like
great
that.
game.
So I
Ultra Kill,
right, but not over the internet, And so it was a process, and of course back then I was super, super busy with real life and working and running a company and things. So I didn't get to play a lot. We played on the weekends when we had time. And basically, for the first year or two of EVE, I just kind of followed him around, and whatever he wanted to do, that's what we did. So we ended up in NullSec as part of the CVA coalition. and fighting AAA and Ursha Khan and all those guys, and fighting in wars and moving all around the map, and learning a lot, being hanging out with Pro God Legend and all kinds of guys back then in those days, Vile Rat and the goons back when the goons were like, show up with 200 grifters or 400 badgers with civilian guns on them, and the good old days. um, and yeah, then the various alliances moved around the map, and we moved to the Spire for a while and started an alliance that moved to Syndicate. And while we were in Syndicate, we started hanging out with a couple of guys from a pirate corporation that used to be called New Eden Renegades, and those guys got us started roaming into Losec, and that's when I first was like, this Losec thing sounds pretty cool. So, I mean, pretty much since then we've been in Losec for the last 12 years, 14 years. I've been -10 for like maybe 14 years in a row now.
You kind of jumped right into PvP. It sounds like, it sounds like you went to like 0.0. Did you do the mining beginning or any of the?
No, we were, even when I had like 2 million skill points, we were part of the defense fleets. We would guard the miners. I never did mining. My son and I once he jumped in an Armageddon and I jumped in a rock, and we put mining lasers on them.
Yes.
But we were doing that for baiting. We were trying to bait AAA cloak. AAA used to cloak vagabonds in our systems, and I won't say the name that we gave those vagabonds because it's not a woke name, so I'm not going to say it out loud. I'll get canceled. But it was a very bad name. But so we were trying to bait them out, and it didn't work. So I have screenshots of us me in a rock and him in a Dominic's or an Armageddon, I think, mining Veldspar and one of the belts in Providence. So we would do goofy stuff like that. But yeah, we got the PV. We just wanted to be PvPers from the very beginning. That's what we wanted to do. So
that's the way to go.
Yeah, we just hung around we found the best PvPers we could find. We were at Dusty Death Enterprises, which was a great PvP corp back in those days, and we learned a lot from the players there, and hanging out in Paxton Federation and LFA, and I'm still. I mean, this is the way EVE works. I was just talking to I don't know if you guys know Rock Weiler. He used to do a lot of music, and he had a blog, and he and Dave Perry, who was his name is Crazy Canucks. He used to run EVE bloggers back in the day, and those two guys were the first people I ever actually talked to in EVE, like other than my son, and that's been almost 20 years ago. So it's crazy how friendships, people my very first alliance that we joined like 2 weeks into the game, that moved, we joined the alliance and then they moved to Providence, and the alliance executor is a guy who runs a marketing agency in Wisconsin, and we're still friends, and I do work with him. He sends me projects all the time, so we're still friends and in contact. So it's just, EVE is an amazing friendship machine. So
yeah, I've made tons of friends. I've met crazy people. Wisconsin, for some reason, has some like massive amount of players for EVE.
I think it's
Madison.
The long winters, right? There's nothing else to do. It's like
yeah, I mean, unless you're like, like, unfortunately,
like 9 months long.
I've been living in Wisconsin all my life, and I've never like got over the child hump of winter. Like in winter when I was a child, it was snowballs and like snow forts and crazy stuff that you could you just went outside anyways because like you were told that you had to be outside, like get off the video game. Like I was 80. Probably early 90s, late 80s, like loved the snow, and then I got older and I just didn't have the money to have like a snowmobile or like all the other go skiing and stuff. I probably could have gone skiing, but that just wasn't up my alley. So yeah, I just said winters for me became playing video games, and MMOs was always like a huge thing in our group. We were people that tried to pioneer as much of the MMOs that were coming out, and like because my friends were all into Ultima Online, which is kind of like the beginnings of this free PvP zone, crazy player economy MMO style.
Open world PvP. Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's
that was awesome.
Yeah, so
OG, you know.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't get in before they split the worlds, but I did get a house in the PvP because you couldn't get a house in the PvE world. You had to go over to the PvP world and find like a plot of land that hasn't been taken yet. But you get killed like 3 times just trying to look for your plot of land that you're trying to look for. And but yeah, MMOs and back in the day and stuff like that. Like, so I think, Wisconsin has a lot of people who like to play video games, and Madison just has a weird. It's a 77 square miles surrounded by reality. So like every job that I go to, of course I'm in IT and stuff. So it's like as soon as I mention Eve, they're like, "I played that game," and I'm like, "You should play it again."
Yeah, my wife, who works in the office here with me during the day, she's a software consultant for a large software consultancy. She does SharePoint stuff, and I mean, everybody she talks to, because they're all in IT, they all know Eve Online, and a lot of the people she works with are former players.
So many nerds, man.
Yeah, so many nerds.
Yeah, no, and that's probably another reason why because Wisconsin is like the birthplace of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax, and there's just some like weird people up here, and and being in the IT field, that's just a huge draw for Eve Online.
First job I got ripped off on was for Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, really? By TSR?
Yeah, back in the early decade past. I did a guy who was a writer. He wrote 2 modules, and he needed artwork for it, and I did the art for it, and then he disappeared, and I never heard from him again, or got paid for it.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It does happen.
It happens,
especially
when you're first starting out as a designer. That's something you have to deal with.
Especially back then too. I mean, you didn't have any. There was no internet or email. Or
no
anything.
Paper, no digital trail.
Right, all I had was a phone number of his apartment. And when he moved out, it was like, I don't know where he went.
Bro,
trying to find him.
That's a long.
I did find him eventually, and he's dead now.
Oh,
so I'll just leave it. I didn't kill him.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay then.
Yeah, but I like telling the story where people think for a second that I might have killed him.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's like,
hunted him down.
He's dead now.
No, we only kill people in video games. Okay, it's okay.
No, unalive, as the kids say these days. We can't say kill. Wait, shit! Did I just say that?
Right.
No.
Gone.
The universe.
Gone to the other side.
So, tell me, do you have any fond memories of Eve back in the day before, all the massive changes that have kind of happened? Is there any nostalgia that you have for old Eve?
Oh, tons. I love telling stories about old Eve. We had a POS bash in a wormhole last week, and so that's as you know, killing a POS is like a really long process. So we had a couple hours to kill, and I was telling the story, a couple of stories, but I'll tell this one because it's wormhole related. But when wormholes first came out, we were down in Providence at the time in Nullsec, and we had there was this story going around that this dude had gotten into a wormhole, and the exit had closed on him, and he was stuck in there for like 3 weeks. He couldn't get out, And every single time that I go into a wormhole, there's a little piece of my brain that goes, "Be careful you don't get stuck in there for 3 weeks or a month and not be able to get out." I honestly have no idea why he just couldn't clone himself. Of course, cloning was a lot different back then too, and nobody believes me when I tell them that and how much we had to pay for our clones, and
when you just died once,
skill points.
It was like 36 million ISK per pod. Like oh my god! I remember when I lost Wing Command 5 because Fleet Command 5. I think I had Fleet Command 5 that I lost at one point. Definitely a Wing Command 5 at one
I've
point.
definitely retrained a lot of skills, yeah. Especially, and then if you were in a T3 when the strategic cruisers first came out, if you died in a T3, you lost skills. You had to retrain the skill before you could get back into that ship. Crazy stuff. And then I'll tell you another funny one. So back then you had to put posses up on at least 50% of the moons in a system in order to have sovereignty. That was how Sov was done before Dominion. And my son and I formed a corporation in Providence, so we had to put up our own POS. That was part of the, you have to have your own POS in order to be a corporation in the alliance. So we did, and it was 2 days later, it was stolen. Somebody that we had given the keys to it took it down while we were offline and stole it. So we didn't have a POS anymore. We still had a lot of the Death Star, because it was a Death Star POS. So we still had a lot of those things. And my son's like, well, I'll just take those to Amar and sell them, and we'll get some ISK back. So he was killed on the way to Amar and lost all of the
Nice
that we had. So yeah.
I mean,
So,
sorry.
No, that was just a great story though. Those days were really weird. I remember the first time I went into a belt. I was in a Merlin in Providence when I went out to rat, and people told me, you're going to make a ton of ISK ratting. I'm like, well, I need to make a ton of ISK. So I was in a Merlin. I go out to the belt, and the wing on the Merlin got stuck on an asteroid, and I just sat there while the rats, killed me for about 15, 20 minutes, and then and died, just stuck on the side of an asteroid. That used to happen.
Yeah,
you could just random shit would happen. I was FCing a fleet once. There were 40 guys in the fleet, and we jumped through a gate, and 20 of them ended up like 12 jumps away, and 20 of us ended up in the system we were supposed to be in, and there was only 20 ships, and I'm like, where the hell are you guys? And they're like, well, we don't know. We're in Masada or somewhere, and I'm like, holy shit, that's like 12 jumps away. The game was really, really. People have a lot of nostalgia for how great it was, but I also have a lot of nostalgia for how really crappy Eve could be back in the day.
I think they've done massive improvements. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bug improvements, the graphic improvements, the gameplay improvements. I don't know. There is a part of me that the Asia Park brings up the bookmark system of old, and I kind of like the old bookmark system than the current bookmark system, because they were talking about how they had like copies of bookmarks inside of POSs, but you could sell bookmarks back in the day.
Oh yeah,
like that's one of my nostalgias, but that's like such a minor nostalgia, to be honest. Like bookmarks, like I understand the moderation of book, because I mean there was like bookmarks like trillions of. I mean, back when you didn't have warp to zero, which I got to experience for very little amount of time when I played the beta, like way back in the day. But then 2005, I think I made a character. I think they had gotten rid of it at that point, but my main character is 2006 when I really started playing, and I got to avoid the whole conundrum of having to deal with not warping to zero. So you built a bookmark to warp to zero, and then people would sell those bookmarks. There was like a whole economy on it, but it was like there were trillions of bookmarks that were in the game, and it was just causing a database problem. And it was like, fix this shit, man.
How I made my first billion in Eve. I made my first billion as I would get up each morning, and I would get in a Badger, and I would fly to Amar, which was like 14 jumps through Nullsec to Amar. And I would buy a Badger full of large rigs, because those were the only rigs you could buy. There weren't medium and small rigs.
Yep, it's all large rigs.
I would fill up the Badger with large rigs and then fly back to Providence while I was having my coffee in the morning and checking my email and all that, and then put those up on the market and sell them. I did that almost every day without fail, and I never lost a single Badger except for one, and that's how I made my first billion in this, just selling large rigs.
Doing the hauling, doing the marketing of, buy low, sell high, and that's
just 25% markup or whatever it was, and and then they would tell us, don't put rigs on your small ships, don't put rigs on frigates, don't put rigs on cruisers, only
it's
put
not
rigs
worth
on
it.
battleships. Yeah. I had a crow. I had 3 crows with large rigs on them, and over the years I sold those off to collectors because people would pay like 4 billion ISK or more for a crow with large rigs on it. So hopefully somewhere in Eve there's a dude or two with crows with large rigs on
Yeah, I still have a what's the Galente prober ship? I haven't flown it in forever. The Tech 2
Helios.
one. The Helios, yeah.
Helios,
I have a
yeah.
Helios that has large rigs in it somewhere, hit stashed away that I need to bring into my collector's, section. But maybe if it, a few years go by, I'll sell that. But
You put that sucker up on the Hypernet, I bet you get some good bids for it.
There you
good
go.
idea. Get people
Yeah,
gambling,
they,
and then I can buy
they-
half of them and hope that I get it back.
Yeah, my guys in
Yeah.
my alliance sold my corpse on the Hypernet and paid for a Astor house.
What? Oh, now I'm gonna hunt you, man. Now I have to hunt you.
Yeah, this was
I
a
have to
couple of
get
weeks
that
ago.
pod. I have to find.
They got 6 or 8, 10 billion. I'm not sure, but yeah, not bad.
Samson, we're gonna have to build you a smart bombing ship, and then we have to hunt
I
down
think
Rixx.
Rixx is.
Rixx.
I think he's like the only corpse I don't have. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Keep your eyes on the Hypernet. I do die occasionally, so they might have.
But I'll have to do a search in my collection later.
Yeah, there's a lot of great Eve stories. You could sit and talk. We do that. We have Steel City Eve here at our house here. Every year, and people come and we just spend the whole day just telling stories and shooting the shit and laughing. It's great. When you get people together, from FanFest and from other meets, it's awesome. We all have our stories and everybody's got shared experiences of things and weird things that have happened and characters that no longer play, but we all remember, and just weird stories of dudes who would, just today I had 10 minutes apparently to play Eve, so I went in the system. There was a dude ratting in a MOA just in the middle of low sec for no reason. I don't know what he was thinking, and so he's dead now. But I always tell my guys, we're flying along on our fleets. I run a fleet every Saturday, and we get good turnout for that. And I always tell everybody, I said, don't make assumptions about what other people's intentions are, because you'll hear that. So I'm like, well, that guy can't be possibly doing what you think he's doing. And I'm like, don't make assumptions about other players' intentions, because you'll be wrong. Because sometimes they do things for no apparent reason and for no sense at all. They just do the stupidest things. You don't know what they're up to.
Yeah, no,
You can never be sure.
We were just camping in ratting. We were just camping in. Well, it's kind of like ratting. In Amazon with Spectre Fleet this weekend, and somebody jumped in a rattlesnake, and everybody was like, "Bait, motherfucker's baited. He's bait to fucking. His shield's gone, armor's gone. Get to hull." And everybody's expecting like, okay, so some weird fucking hull tank that this person devised, and nope. This just disappears, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's not bait. Like, what the fuck just happened here?" Like,
who knows?
it's always
the weirdest.
It's there's I would say bet on stupid. I'm a big
Yep.
I'm an asshole. I'm looking for the dumbass that's like, "Oh, I'll just take," and I am a dumbass that just takes my E and I out and is just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna jump in
people
blind. I don't
here's
care.
the other thing too. It's not. I say that too. The always count on stupid, but from their perspective, and this is the thing. You don't know what they were doing from their perspective might have been 100% legit. And they just don't know to check Z kill. They don't know.
They don't know what Tama is.
the-
They don't know the concept of low sec.
Yeah.
How bloodthirsty we are. I do remember. I do have a lot of nostalgia, not necessarily for the old gameplay, but for how I viewed Eve. Like from this very innocent, like when I first played Eve, I was like, why would you want to shoot somebody in low sec? Like, what's the point of like getting killed? Like, I hated on, and because we lived in, I don't know if you've ever heard of
He was a
Hain.
Care Bear.
It's this weird little like pocket system over by Parts and Obalu. I don't know why. It's like I'm like always surprised at how famous Hain was. You know, like with like just weird, like people knew
Frozen
about it.
was a Care Bear.
I was oh man, I was an anti-pirate Care Bear. Like
that is embarrassing.
I would mine in my we'd put up a POS. We put all the first Pocos when Pocos came out. We put all the Pocos in Hain, and we owned Hain for like 3 years. We were like fucking top shit motherfuckers here. Although after it only took like a year for me to figure out that like not being like just be bloodthirsty and an asshole, and that's what we like turned Hain into. Is like my buddy would hang out in his Proteus and like scan. And with some of the best recruits were people we'd scan down in the middle of a mission, go blow them up, and they'd be like Killer Trout. One of the best fucking murderers in faction warfare came out of finding him in a mission.
Guy, man. Every time he talks about this dude,
Killer
I can't
Trout,
say I'm
man.
not jealous, Frozen. I can't say I'm not fucking jealous. Every time you talk about this guy that I can't live up to his standards.
It sounds like love to me.
It was a lot of love.
Can't live up to his standards, Frozen.
He's the one who introduced faction warfare to the cockbait Thrasher, which is just guns and damage and fast point, so you could go to low sec, high sec, and just catch people on gates and just blow them up, you know, frigates in one shot. It was like, what the fuck? This is brilliant.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean we Stay Frosty's been in Oleta for almost a decade now. We live there. That's our home system. It's pretty easy to figure out from Z-Kill that that's where we live. That's where we base out of. I mean, and people still show up mining. You know, it's not unusual to log in and see retrievers and coveters in the belts. And there's only 3 belts in Oleta, and it's really easy to skin and kill them. And I don't know why, but people still do it. Missioners show up in Oleta and then be surprised, and they're all like, "Why did you kill me, bro?" And I'm like, you know, I'm a pirate. That's what I do.
It's a different mindset, and you get it really quick, I think, after playing Eve. Once you've experienced low sec and 0.0, you get the mindset of like, oh, anybody that's not blue is trying to murder me. Like, that person is there to try and murder me, kind of thing. But speaking of Stay Frosty and Abandoned Park, can you tell me how did that all? What was the start of all of that? What's the story behind?
Well, like I said, we had started a corporation way back then. We had a couple of those along the way. We tried a high sec mercenary corporation when we had 5 million skill points, which is just absolutely hysterical. It makes me laugh. That didn't work out, surprisingly enough. So we tried.
Really?
We had a couple of friends who tried. We tried a low sec pirate corporation once, and then that didn't work out because people just quit and left. And then so we moved around. We ended up with a great corporation, one of the oldest corporations in Eve at the time, Dion Dissonance, and they're great guys. I learned a lot from them. That's who we moved to Syndicate with, and then my son and I started a corporation called Lucifer's Hammer, which is still in ABA. It's our industrial corp now, but it used to be our pirate corporation. And it's a great Larry Niven novel, science fiction novel. But we had some real life stuff happen, and I ended up in Tuskers, and so I was in the Tuskers for a year, about 18 months, and Kay Jolo, who was the founder of Tuskers, left, and Suleiman Shua took over as CEO, and he and I did not to say we did not see eye to eye is a little bit of an understatement. So we had some rough patches there, and I really wasn't playing Eve a lot at the time, but I had started coming back and playing more regularly, and he and I started to butt heads a bit, and it turned into a thing where I got kicked, and then a bunch of guys wanted me to not be kicked, and then it turned into a bit of a drama. So
Drama and
You decide.
Eve? No.
Yeah, so
that's not a thing.
I can still remember my son and I
Happened.
sat in the living room talking about it, and I said, "Well, let's just do it again. We'll start it right. We'll do it right this time." And he said, "Why don't we call it Stay Frosty from Aliens from Corporal Hicks?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
so that's where the name came from. And so we just left the Husker station. We flew across to another station in Heveras and started Stay Frosty, and basically just based on K. Jolo's original pirate code, and we added some new stuff about treating your members with respect and not using foul language, and just being good human beings and not being a dick, basically. And I started promoting it on the blog, and before we know, we had over 300 members, which, as it turned out, was an unsustainable sort of low sec number. We're much better around 129, 150. I think we have 129 now. 300 just was too much growth, and we ended up moving to Ishamilkan for a little while, and then we settled in Oleta, which is just perfect spot for us. It's right in the middle of Glenty Caldari faction warfare space,
Nice.
high sec entrance. It's just a great system for us to be in. And so we've been there for Stay Frosty's a little over almost 10 and a half years old now. We were 10 last May, so almost 11 years old. And we formed a band apart to fly in the Alliance tournament. We had no real interest in starting an alliance. We just wanted to be a low sec corporation, but you can't fly in the Alliance tournament if you don't have an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
So we formed an alliance. We sadly were a little late that year, so we weren't able to fly in that one. So we flew in the Neo. I don't remember the Neo tournament from back in the day, but that was a good start for us. And then we started here. Other corporations would join, and it just went from there. That was pretty much it. Once we had Stay Frosty, it's just been nonstop PvP ever since. Pirate PvP. It's funny talking to you guys because we get Galmill often accuses us of working for Calmill, and Calmill often accuses us of working for Galmill, and vice versa. And it's not. I tell other people, I said it's not complicated to figure us out because we don't have blues, and we have a lot of friends, and we often help those friends out when they need us. I'm flying through a system, and a dude in local's like, "Hey, Rixx, there's a structure that needs blown up." And I'm like, "Okay, tell me the timer and we'll show up for it." And we bring 20 or 30 guys over to help them blow up a structure. We've done that. It doesn't mean that we're aligned with those people. It just means they were friends and they were really nice, and we went and helped them do some pew. If somebody says there's a carrier on a station and a system 4 jumps over, we're going to go over there and help them kill it.
So you're an opportunist of content, which most of us are, right?
We're not aligned. We just pursue good content and good fights, right? And so we're not against anybody either. That's the other side of it, is that we don't care about politics or drama. We don't participate in that, really. We try not to.
So you're not anti-snuff.
Sometimes Snuff doesn't want you to not be in drama, so they sort of force you to do it. But
all the encounters I've had with Stay Frosty guys have always been pleasant.
I
love fighting. I love meeting you guys in space. We love fighting you guys. We love just chilling, and a lot of you guys are good friends of ours. And
absolutely.
And it's just,
I'm really glad to hear that, because that's the kind of culture we want. We don't want to be assholes.
Exactly.
We just want good fights and help people out. I tell our guys spend a lot of time talking to people afterwards. And trying to help out.
Yeah. If someone reaches out to me after I've blown them the F up, and they legitimately want to know what or how
happened,
I'll give you everything. Like, here's my fit, here's what I do on a daily basis. If you want to learn more, just come join us.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to help out as much as I can, and sometimes people don't believe what I tell them, or they're like, that doesn't make any sense, and I'm like, well, okay. And or they don't want to talk at all. Some people are, just nervous, I know. And it can be a very intimidating world, the Eve. And you try to be as nice about it as you can, especially after you've blown somebody up.
When they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I think one of our,
I think Frozen would agree, one of our favorite recruits, Maniac, I blew him up in Yvangir. He was just flying like in a catalyst, but it was filled with newbie skill injectors. And I not only did he join us, but I took the I managed to take the skill injectors off the market before he joined, so I could give them back.
Well, I'll tell you a funny thing because we go on those roams every week on Saturdays. Well, my roam, my other FCs run roams too, but I do a regular Saturday one. And at the end, it's kind of tradition to find a venture. So this Saturday, there were, I don't know, 25 of us in fleet, and we're all in retributions and carries and nasty things. And but yeah, on the way back home, we always try. I mean, it's just the goofiest thing, but we always try to find a venture to end the roam on. So some poor guy's out mining, and so 20 or 30 guys show up and point him and just hold him for a bit, and we try to talk to him in local, and usually they don't want to say anything. So we're trying to say, we apologize for this. It's tradition, but it has to die, and you're the lucky winner.
You have become tribute.
winner.
But here's the funny part, because last Saturday we did it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to send the guy 5 million ISK, and everybody goes, wait a second, I just sent him 5. I think the guy made like 45 or 50 million ISK. Everybody, because everybody sent him money afterwards because we felt so bad. So he made out pretty well, I think.
Yeah, no, that is a good way to make some ISK sometimes, is to be a newbie flying around in low-sec and get caught by some cool people who are just like, we're gonna murder you and teach you some things and then give you some money, and it's like, because I do that every once in a while. I'll usually message the guy.
Every once in a while, Frozen, you do it every time I murder somebody horribly. You get
no, not when you murder them. Right. Well, okay, when you murder them horribly, it's because they're a fucking newbie, and I'm like, this person's only been in the game for like 5 days. Maybe it's an alt, but they're not acting like an alt. Like, they brought a hauler filled with a bunch of random crap into Yvangir.
What you usually tell.
You can kind of. I always say that if it's an alt, then they're doing alt activities, and if they're doing an alt activity, I'll know. Well, I'll be able to guess that it's an alt activity, and even if it is an alt, maybe it's an alt of a new character who does it. Who also does it. It's like learned that this game is a multi-character game, like.
Frozen.
Yeah, the question I get the most from young players is why, and why you're picking on young players. You've been playing for 16 years and it's unfair, and like, look, dude, first of all, a Vexer is a Vexer, a crow is a crow. I have no idea who's flying that thing.
Right.
All I see on D-Scan is Vexer, and I don't know if you're 10 minutes old or 20 years old.
Right. You might be bait. You might be somebody who's like found a new trick with that ship that you can fuck with a fleet of 50 people, because I've seen it. One guy, 50 people just fucking with them the entire time.
Uncloaked on it. I've uncloaked my Astero on an adventure or two, mining, and then suddenly there's 4 Stratioses with newts. Killing. I've lost ships that way.
Yep.
It just happens. It's Eve. It's very dangerous for everybody. For me too. As soon as I engage, I am opening myself up. I just did that. Well, I told you, I just killed that Moa with my Astero in that system. I had no idea. I kept scanning. Like there's 14 people in local while I'm doing this, and my ship is worth, I don't know, 250 million ISK. Yeah, and I'm exposed during that fight, and I'm just hitting V every couple seconds, V, because I'm fully expecting a Loki or a Proteus or something to show up, but nobody ever did. No one loved that guy.
You did. You loved him.
You showed him love.
We just show love differently.
Well, speaking of love and speaking about new guys, one of the reasons we wanted to bring you on today is we really want to talk about the Frig Free For All that is hosted by your corp. And as we talked about in Iceland, it was one of the things 3 years ago or 4 years ago that got me into
that's awesome.
Kept me in Eve. I was struggling. I wasn't in a good corp. I was trying to get into some local NPC or whatever the fleets are, MPSI fleets, and
I love hearing
just was having a hard go of it. And so I heard about this thing, and I went in, and I had somebody hand me 20 frigates and said, go blow them up. And I did, and had a great time. And I'm like, all right, this is what Eve is supposed to do. So Um, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So you guys are hosting that on April 20th, and that's in Oleta.
We try to have it in spring each year. This is our 10th annual or 10th in a row, and it's the 10th one that Stay Frosty has done. And Stay Frosty will be 11, like I said. The reason why it's not the 11th is that first year it was a Tusker FFA because I had been in the Tuskers. So the Tuskers had done it 2 years in a row, and before that I had done it with Dion. So Dion had FFAs because I was in Dissonant. So it's really like the 16th or 15th in a row, but it's the 10th in a row for us. It started out, it was very difficult in the old days but before multi-fit, because we had to fit all the frigates ourselves, one at a time, and so we had to share the fits. And then we would have fitting parties where 10 or 15 of us would get in a station and just one after the other, fit it one at a time. And so you do 2,000, 3,000 of those, and that's 6 hours of work. And so multi fitting has really opened up the world for that, because we last year we fitted 20,000 frigates, fully fitted frigates. 15,000 frigates and 5,000 destroyers, and just to mix things up a
Nice.
little bit. And the year before that, we had done this. We had those donated from another player. Another player just said he would do it for us for free, and so he donated those frigates. And then I had to wake up every day and take a bowhead. And don't tell anybody that I did this, because this is not very piratey. But I would have to fill a bowhead full of frigates, which is only like 300 or 400 depending on the frigate, and then take them to a structure and dump them off, and do that like 700 times, however many. And luckily for us, Snuff was kind enough to come along and take our structures away from us, so we can't do that anymore. But
Good on them.
yeah, I mean, whatever. They feel good about it, I guess. I don't know. It's like we don't use them. It's Stay Frosty. We only
Fuck
for the
Snuff.
FFA, but whatever. Um, so no big deal. We're just doing it out of the NPC stations. So that's what we're doing. And so yeah, I think this year we fitted up. Our guys are working on 10 or 12,000 of them, because we have some left over from last year, and it's just 6 hours. It's usually about 6 hours long, and we just start, and everybody who docks at an NPC station gets handed a bunch of frigates, and you undock and just have at it. And people come, um, the ECM burst people, the smart bombing people. Everybody, every year I hear everybody's got
PTP.
an idea of how to game the
Oh
system,
yeah.
and it's fine.
If
And
if
then
if
we
you,
also do. I usually get into a marshal. One year, someone donated a marshal to me, and which is the worst person to give a marshal to, because I don't take any advantage. I'm -10, so I get
No
no
advantages.
bonuses, no bonuses. Which I think there should be a pirate marshal that
Mm-hmm.
gets bonuses for negative sex status.
a
But anyway,
I
partial,
agree.
yep, yeah.
Or
What do they
pirate
call
ships,
that?
all general pirate ships should get like this weird little
Yeah,
if
your
if
if you
bonus.
anybody
look at
wants to
it, I did a
donate
drawing of
another,
one. Yeah, I did a drawing of one. It has smoke coming out of the top of it and fire, and it's got like a tattoo logo on the side of it, and a skull on the front.
that sounds
Um,
amazing.
yeah, I can't remember what I call it, what the name I gave it, but I'm trying to get Fozzie or somebody to do it. Um, and so we do special, we'll undock special ships to give everybody a chance, because these young players have never seen a Naglfar before. I've sacrificed Naglfars, and a Zenitra one year, and a Marshal, and a Thanatos, and it's just fun for everybody, and it's a good opportunity, to set your clones. And now it's so easy to correct negative sex status if you were worried about that. It's not as complicated as it used to be. You
You
can
just
just buy
pay
your
off the
way out of it.
cops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
just pay
really
off
That's
the
the
nice.
thing.
cops.
That's what alts
Yeah,
are for, bro. You don't need to pay off the cops. That's what alts are
yeah,
for.
exactly.
Well, no, my
And
main's got to be on all those kills, man. Like, I only care about any kills that happen to my main. Any other character that I control is like,
yeah,
well,
and some of
that doesn't
some of
matter.
these events have been, Fozzie takes good care of us as far as recording all the records and everything that we've achieved. I mean, some of these fights, some of these days have just resulted in insane amounts of third largest fight, second largest fight ever in low sec or in Eve, as far as total ships killed, not total damage, obviously, but or ISK value. But yeah, we have a blast. It's awesome, and I hope we can keep doing it. And it's funny because in the early days we used to form up security fleets, and kind of guard the gates and punish people who came in ships. And after a year or two of doing that, we realized that it was better if we just let it go, and stop worrying about it, and just let things play out the way they're going to, and everybody just has a blast.
Yeah,
Because it's
that's
Eve, right?
yeah,
Why
that's
stop Eve? Let it be Eve.
right,
Let
yeah.
everybody play.
And I mean, you
Yep.
can try, but it's going to be a lot more work on your side. You're probably not getting the bonus that you think you're getting for trying to keep people out. It just makes more of like it encourages
Well,
people
and
to
the other
like
side of
try
it
and
too,
fuck with it. Then
if you want to drop a couple of redeemers on 500 frigates, I mean, feel free. But in 20 minutes, you're not going to have 2 redeemers anymore because
yeah.
the frigates are going to kill you.
Well, and just not just the frigates, but you've got Snuff. Now, Snuff does do a role of like they do
Fuck
the
Snuff.
the unbeatable fleet that like kind of comes in and fucks with people.
Sure.
But it also, if you're gonna drop anything on this, you've got Snuff that's gonna be fucking with that drop that's gonna be happening. So you got to be prepared for that. So like our beautiful Gwen here. Samson had dropped a beautiful little smart bombing Thanatos. Like we expected it to be blown up in like seconds by Snuff, but Snuff like let it sit around for a little while. Well, you got
What are you insinuating, Frozen? I don't like where you're going with this.
Oh, well, because you paid them off. That's what happened, isn't it?
Your friend
No, but I will say if someone wants to donate another capital ship for me to drop in the middle of the FFA, I absolutely will do it. And I just want to point out that's what happened. Someone donated that thing to me and said, I'll give you this on one condition if you drop it on the FFA and smart bomb people. And I was like, well, you're going to give me a free carrier and that's all I have to do? Sure. I suitcase so much shit with that before that happens.
With the implicit idea that it's going to die,
I'll tell you a funny story though. So last year, before about 4 or 5 months before the FFA, when I announced that we were going to do it, I did that last year, and so we got a bunch of donations. We usually do. People give frigates, to help out or whatever. And I just had a guy this week give us 750 fully fit frigates, so we're moving those. And someone contacted me and said, I have a Hell supercarrier that I'd like to donate for the FFA. And I'm just like, yeah, well, we take anything, whatever you want to do. I said, wait a second, it's a Hell. Can you link that? So they linked it, and it was all officer fit, officer mods, all the way down the line. And I was like, that's really very, very expensive. And also, I just realized I don't know how to. Rixx can't fly any supers, and I mean I can fly dreads and carriers just because I'm bored. I have nothing else to train. But they're like, well, it doesn't matter what you do. Sell it, use the ISK for buying ships, whatever you want to do. It's fine. Just use it for the FFA. So I'm like, okay. So I didn't think about it a whole lot, and we got a couple weeks before the FFA, and I'm like, I have this officer fit Hell. I completely forgot about. What are we going to do with it? And well, if you bring it out, Snuff's going to kill you. And like, yeah, that's pretty sad. I don't want to give them that kill mail. And so what I did was I just contacted that person and ended up giving them the Hell back. Like, this is too much trouble. I just want to give it back. And man, I just got nothing but grief from Snuff about that. They were so mad that I didn't show up. They knew about it and they wanted that kill mail, and they just raked me over the coals on Discord and on Reddit for it.
I love that story. That story makes me so happy.
If you see Snuff saying that Rixx scammed the community, that's what they mean. Apparently I kept the Hell and I just scammed everybody out of it, but no, I gave it back. It's fine. But it's fun, but but that's a blast, and I'm glad you had a good experience with it. I hear that all the time. A lot of guys in our corp are there because of the FFA. A lot of people I beat in space are, well, why are you doing it, or when's it going to happen? Can we do it twice a year? Can we do it more often? And it's like, well, dude, it takes our guys like a good 3 or 4 months, 6 months almost to make 20,000 fully fit frigates. So it's not an easy task. But I guess I could just probably go to G to buy those, but I don't know how much that would cost.
Well, I heard there was some controversy too at one point because, as you said, everybody is going to contact you and go, "Rixx, you could do this better," and there's got to be a point where you're like, "Just suck a dick." Then you do it. I said, if you're going to make this
I don't
hard
have a
on me,
license
then
on. I don't have a license on FFAs. Other people run FFAs. It's just that the confluence of events has turned this into, and the commitment to a long time, because we, back in the early days when we do it, we get 300 or 400 people total. We would go through 2,000 frigates in an hour and a half. The FFA was like 2 hours. The first time we did it, it's 6 hours now because we have so many frigates and so many people come. We get the one year we had like 10,000 players in a 6 hour period, and I think 45,000 ships were blown up.
That's
And that's
absolutely
not just
amazing.
it's not just the frigates that we hand out, but the stuff that people bring. People bring their own stuff for
Yeah, no, that's a huge part. I brought a few of my own shit to like set myself up because I knew you guys were gonna hand out ships, but maybe I don't get the hand immediately,
you don't want
or I want that. I want to fuck around in something, and the small gang stuff.
So
like I highly suggest for people who come into this is to not do a big gang thing, but like get like 4 or 5 of your buddies together and just fleet up for it and just warp around and get blown up and try and blow up people. It is epic. Like it was an experience like I haven't had in Eve really, because there's just so many enemies and you're just looking for your targets of opportunity, and it's so fucking awesome.
One of the best times I had was 2 years ago, or I don't think it was last year. I think it was 2 years ago. We formed up a fleet of 12 remote repair procurers, mining barges, 100% hull tanked with remote repairs on them, armor repairs, and drones. And 12 of us just went around and we had a blast. I have 53 kill marks on that procurer.
Nice.
It's still sitting in the station because I can't fly it any other time other than in the FFA. But so being weird, trying odd things is fun, and there's a lot of activity. So it's an awesome time. It's about just having a good time and having fun. We don't get to do that very often in the game, and forget about all the drama and politics and reasons and everything.
Yeah, and I personally like to stay out of all the politics. I'm just there for content. I'm just there for fun. I want people to have fun. I want other players to experience what I've experienced. And that being said, I did want to before the shows end fangirl a little bit, because Frozen he may have stepped away, so it looks like I get to take over. I love all of your design work. I'm gonna try to hold this correctly. There's your pin, beautiful pin, and then there's Gwen's fucking license. These were like the coolest things ever. I don't know if you appreciate how much we love these things.
That's
and
awesome.
it's just such a really cool thing, because we all not all of us are heavy RPers, and I wouldn't say that I'm a heavy RP type person, but Gwen is very much her own, they whatever own like being at this point. Like I've created a monster. Well, I blame Frozen. I blame Frozen as well, because he was very much responsible for teaching Gwen how to kill. And but that being said, like what's I don't even know where I don't even go. Like I'm a huge fan, but I want something productive out of this. That like, what's it like just being like, the coolest designer in Eve? Like that's that's a thing.
Well, thank you, but I appreciate that, and that I sincerely do appreciate that, and I'm glad that people like the work that I do, and it all came about totally by accident. Those first I was running an advertising agency when I started playing. I have a creative advertising agency that I had started. I founded it. It was a single. I left a job, started a company by myself.
The Don Draper of Eve.
Yeah. I turned it into. We had 42 employees. We were working with clients all over the world. It was pretty awesome. I was very proud of it. But I was running that when I started playing Eve, and I started that in 2001, so I started playing in 2008, and so the first alliance I was a part of was like getting into wars and doing things, and I started noticing a lot of propaganda on the internet. There was a lot of goon propaganda, there was a lot of Ursha Khan propaganda, and we didn't have any. And I was like, well, I'm going to start making some propaganda posters for the forums. And so that's what I did. I took old World War II posters and I would do them up, and it didn't take a lot, but people just loved those. And I would do wallpapers, and then that's where the name of my blog, Eva Ganda, comes from. It was Eve and propaganda, and I just made up
Nice.
a word. I'm in advertising, so I made up a word.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and so that's how it got started. I was just like, well, I'm doing this stuff. I should probably have a place to show people and tell stories, and that's when Rixx started to really become a character. And I was like, well, I'll just write a journal about my adventures in Eve, and so that's where that started. And then I got contacted by then CCP Manifest, who was out of Atlanta. And if you guys remember him, he was like one of the community developers back in 2008, 2009. And CCP was looking for a company to do their social media. And so they asked me, they knew I ran an agency, and they said, would you be interested? So we pitched CCP as a business partner, and we didn't get it. They ended up doing something else, but we made a lot of contacts there, and then Manifest and I started talking, and then I got a job. You'll appreciate this. I got a freelance job, and it was a giant mural and on the side of a building, and they wanted me to do graphic design for it. And I was like, holy crap, okay, I have this perfect idea. It was a client I won't mention, because I ended up not even getting the job. But what I wanted to do was figure out a way to do a certain piece of art for the side of a whole building. It was a 14-story building.
Oh, nice.
And how do you do that? And so I did a lot of research, and I found out, and I was going to do it in vector art in Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well,
Yep.
if I'm going to practice this, I'm going to do some spaceships. So I did some spaceships, and I remember this French artist. His name is PJ Redout, and he had done these really beautiful botanicals. So it was like the flower, but it was a flat background behind it, and I did spaceship posters like that. I just did the spaceship, but against a flat colored background, and people just fell over themselves about it, and they loved them, and it was awesome. And I just started doing a bunch of those to get really good at doing vector graphics so that I could do that. And I mean, I'd done Illustrator art before. I wasn't a newbie at it. I've been using Illustrator since it was in beta. But
yeah,
I got really good at doing that, and that's where. And then Torfy, who was the creative director at the time, contacted me and said, "Hey, we really like those spaceship posters," because they were getting a lot of internet attention, not Eve related. Like other art groups and things were picking them up and talking about them, and they were getting a lot of attention. And he's like, "We would like for you to help us not only do these posters, but relaunch the Eve store," because at the time the Eve store had been closed for a bit. And so we spent like a whole year working on figuring out a way to get the Eve store back up and get it back and running and do merchandise and all that. And also I created what ended up being 8 posters that CCP sold. And in 2015 at FanFest, I sat there and autographed them and handed them out. We sold them at FanFest, and they sold out. And we had a lot of plans for a lot of things, but nothing really worked out because one of the problems is shipping. Shipping has killed us because the company they used to buy the posters was in California, and people in other parts of the world were paying like 2, 3, 4 times what the posters cost in order to get them shipped. Like if you wanted them shipped to Australia, it was almost $100. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that is insane. Yeah,
and the Eve store has always been challenged by that. So I knew that that's when I started the Redbubble store, my Redbubble store, and I knew that there were ways around this, but that the solution didn't exist yet. So a few years ago, solutions started to present themselves, and I went to CCP and I said, because I had helped, I had helped a couple of other artists, Lucas and a couple other. Lucas does the line drawing posters, and I think I'm missing out on the other guy's name right now. And I apologize to him, but I had helped them get licenses with CCP in order to sell their art. And I was in Reykjavik, and I talked to Orca and a few other people about getting my own license. That's when I opened up rixxjavix.com and started selling my own posters. And the thing I had told everyone was that I was never going to do that unless I could at least partially solve the shipping problem. And so the company that I use, the third party that I use, has 32 production locations around the world. So the way they solve it is they print the poster at the nearest location they have to use.
That's like CDN for printing.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Deliver it.
If you're in Germany and you order a poster from rixxjavix.com, it's printed in Germany. They have a production facility in Germany, so you don't not only you pay less shipping, but you don't have to pay the VAT tax and all that because it's not international. Mm-hmm. So they have locations all over the world to do that, and it's pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet deal. It's not cheap. I mean, shipping's still expensive. There's really nothing you can do about it, but it's cheaper than it should be, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't make anything off of it. It's just there for me to have fun with, and to have people have posters in their game rooms with Eve stuff on them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was really excited to get the pins. Like again, I'll show. Like there's a couple here, but the coolest one, of course, has got the full I really wish I could make this work better.
It's hard.
But
it's hard.
It's really good, and it inspired me to get my own pins, our own pins with our logo, so that we can give them out at the Madtown meetup, which are these little guys here. And it's just a lot of fun. We'll give those out at the Madtown meetup.
And that's coming up on May 4th. May the 4th be with us, with all of us. Awesome. When it comes to this, we're gonna get together. We're going to a
flying out to Madtown. My shit's already booked.
With this episode, I'm going to be giving out in the description for YouTube and for the podcast. I'm going to be giving out the Discord for that, and I'm going to start trying to push that around so that we can see how many people are actually interested in coming. Madison's got a lot of locals, a lot of people that have been hearing about it because we got on the intergalactic parties that are happening for EVE Online, and we've been able to kind of push out. We got a cool ass poster that we post up all the time. I
designed it.
Yeah, no, wait, I can do that. Meetup right here. I have it. Look at that. You can kind of see that. And so
I do want to point this out though, because I'm a designer and it drives me nuts, and Rixx will understand, but it's supposed to be a peachy folder and it's supposed to be that orange color, and he made it gray and it pisses me off.
I made it gray?
Just saying. Yeah, I gave it to you. It was not gray and it just turned gray.
I don't even know how that happened. But yeah, so it's going to be at IO Arcade, 924 Williamson's Street. Willie Street, basically. It's Willie Street. It's Willie Street in Madison.
But yeah, the Madtown meetup.
Madtown meetup. Speaking of meetups, though, we met you at FanFest. How long have you been going to Eve, like real life meetups? What are some of the highlights that you've kind of been participating in?
So the first time that I ever met a real Eve player, other than my son, who we've been playing together since 2008, was at FanFest in Iceland. My wife and I thought we met somebody on a plane, and then when we landed, we got in a bus and we went to Reykjavik, and they let us off in front of the hotel there down in the old town, and we got out of it, and immediately this is the first time, and so 7 years after I started playing, I heard my name out loud in real life. I'd never heard anybody say, "Hey, Rixx," and it was like, it was very, very strange because somebody yelled as soon as I got off the bus, "Hey, Rixx!" And I'm like, "What? Oh, that's me," you know, because I'd never heard anybody say my name out loud in the real world. I was always Brian, you know, that's my real name, and I was like, oh, so now, obviously, I'm accustomed to it now. When people say Rixx, I know they're talking to me. But so my wife and I have been to Iceland. I think that was our 6th or 7th fan fest,
Wow.
and yeah,
Nice.
we haven't missed. We missed one since 2015, and then of course the ones that were canceled because of COVID. But we've also been to Eve Amsterdam. We were actually
Love
sitting on the
Amsterdam.
couch, and I was on Twitter, and CCP Guard said that the Amsterdam was going to be the last Eve event he was going to do. He was retiring, he was moving on to Morel, and I looked over at my wife and I said, "Guard's retiring, and Amsterdam's the last place he's going to be." And we were like, "Let's go." So that was like 2 weeks before Eve Amsterdam. So we just got plane tickets and went to Eve Amsterdam, and I did this really beautiful poster for him, and we had everybody sign the back of it. Everybody was at Amsterdam, got a chance to sign the back, and we handed it to him on stage, and they lost it.
Oh
So
no.
Oh
he
no.
never got it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
So
I interpreted that as like they lost it, that like everybody went crazy and they loved it, but then I was
they
like,
did,
wait,
but yeah,
no,
it's
no,
gone. Nobody, he doesn't
no.
have it. Nobody knows where it went. And
Yeah, but CCP Guard was at the last Eve Fest. Did you get a chance to talk with
yeah,
him?
yeah, saw him. Yeah, it's been, and we went to Eve North in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
We've been to Eve Vegas twice. We've been to Eve Amsterdam. Eve. We missed. We were going to go to Eve London, and that day we were leaving on a plane. There was an ice storm, and our power got knocked out. And we went to the airport anyway through the ice storm, and all the flights had been canceled. And so we were stuck at the airport without power, without any flights anywhere. We tried to figure out a way to get to Canada, and then, but it just didn't work out. So we missed Eve London that year. But year 2 falls ago, we went to London and met with CCP and everybody there, and had dinner with some people, and met up a bunch of Eve players on a Saturday night at a tavern, and had beers, and did the whole Eve London thing, and went to Stonehenge and all that. So we Eve is like an excuse for us to get out of the house and go places, and I just love that. No, I've said before, like I could fall out of the space shuttle and land somewhere in this world, and I think within a few hours I'd probably run into an Eve player or find an Eve player and be able to get some help, no matter where you were in the world. So I'm
yeah.
sure you guys are the same. In your alliance, we've had people, from
Yeah,
South Africa, from Nigeria, from Crete, from Greece, from
yeah,
Spain, from
dude.
just everywhere, anywhere you can name. There's probably a former Eve player or a current Eve player there. It's
It's a
amazing.
super
Yeah,
international game. It's not a United
yeah,
States
and I and our
based game. Like it's
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
I don't know, Frozen. Maybe you would agree, but I feel like our experience as FC's Inspector Fleet has really opened that up a lot because there's a lot. There's just so many people, and those fleets are so popular,
Right.
and you just meet
Yeah.
so many. You meet so many really cool people from all over the place,
Oh,
It's
and
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, the NPSI stuff is really great.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
some of
love
the stuff that
NPSI.
me and Samson recently have jumped into the FC roles for Spectre Fleet after flying with them for the past few years, and it's been a really great experience. Great people, just going around trying to murder people. Virion is super awesome, and
He was fun to hang out with at FanFest as well.
yeah, that was super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. He's a cool
Um,
guy.
Yeah, I always find the experience of meeting up with people that are in real life that are EVE Online players, like a large group of them, is just kind of crazy. Like there was always the Goomp that happened here in Madison back in the day, and that's how I got into Goons for a little while. Is because they were throwing like parties all the time, and I was hanging
Sure.
out with some of
Right.
the cool
Right.
people and being able to like be part of this like special group of like large group of people in my city that were like we're just hanging out playing other games. We played board games all the time. I'd go over and hang out with different people and be able to just have a good time, and then also have that shared experience of Eve. And the Eve meetups were just awesome. Like I mean, for me, it was really eye-opening coming to FanFest, because I've been to a lot of other meetups, and just kind of, you'd hang out, you talk about Eve and stuff like that. But there was like a level of like, let's not talk about Eve, because we always are
honestly,
talking about
like,
Eve.
there's a lot less talk about Eve and more just talk about just people just meeting their fellow humans, the nerds that they've played with.
Last year, or catching up, a lot of catching up. Like, how have you been? Or I have never met you. I met Kribba for the first time. I've known Kribba for 20 years, and we've talked. We've talked on the on Discord. We've talked on TeamSpeak. I stepped in for him a few times when he was on vacation and did cap swaps for him, posing as Kribba, that kind of, and not posing as Kribba, just I don't want to get banned. But I've never met him in real life before, so it was pretty awesome. I was like, like people are with me sometimes when they meet me for the first time. It's always weird because I'm always a behind the camera guy. I've been in advertising, do commercials and other things, and I'm always behind the camera. I don't like
and you're a fairly large individual.
Right.
That was something that Samson was like super impressed by.
I was like, you're the only guy that's taller than me.
I just have a really hard time believing that.
Well, except for Varian, but
that I'm sort of kind of famous in a weird way.
Yeah,
you are super famous.
Speaking to that, that is the coolest thing. That is the coolest thing that I personally experienced, as a narcissist. And no, I'm just kidding. I just walking into I think it was the karaoke bar, walking into the karaoke bar, and there were two Scotsmen, a father and son, sitting at a table, and they just flagged me down and say, "You're the faction warfare guy." I'm like, what?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Are you joking?
Awesome.
Like, it's like, no, you're so and so, blah blah. Finish for. I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. And they had the best scotch in their flask. Holy shit!
That was
a great
it
came straight from Scotland. So
yeah,
we got pretty
from Scotland.
We were pretty messed up. I mean, he bought me drinks like a couple of days of FanFest. Every time I ran into him, it was at the bar. I don't know why. Maybe I'm an alcoholic. But he was. They were really cool dudes. But then also, to think the thing that struck me the most, meeting someone for the first time, Riley Shark Reese, they played with us for a long time, been watching us and on the streaming and stuff, and we played and they were playing on the opposite side in Caldari, and I just hear someone say Samson, and I'm like, who's calling me? That's not a voice I recognize. I mean, it sounds familiar because I've played video games with this person, but I had no idea. And they just like they're there with like their good friend or something, and they meet him for the first time. What's that?
We'd interviewed Reese.
Yes, no, true. Yes, we did interview Riley. We interviewed Riley on the show. That's true. It was a long time ago, and I think we were supposed to have them back, but we had issues. But yeah, so like it was just crazy, like to have someone, like both like people that are complete strangers and people that like you said, like just like for the first time you get to meet them.
I have 4 boys, and so my oldest is the one that was 14. So the other 3, they don't play Eve; they play other video games. But the youngest, who just turned 18, he started playing Eve about 6 months ago, and
nice.
He's an Eve Uni, and that's what I told him to do. I said, go join Eve Uni, learn how to play Eve, and then when you get 10, 12 million skill points, come see me, and you become a pirate. So he's awesome. He's talking to people.
You're doing parenting, right?
This is a movie right here. Just to let you know, like I envision this as like the script for a movie. Father sends son off to the academy to come back and become a pirate lord after.
Yeah. And so he's in a fleet one day, and they're talking. He's like, "Yeah, my dad plays Eve." And they're like, "Oh, really? Your dad plays Eve?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's a pirate." And
that's not fair.
They're like, "Who is it?" And he's like,
"Pirate privilege."
It's not Rixx Javix, is it? And that's what happened. And he's like, and they're like, "Oh my God, no!" Don't go around telling people that.
You got to be hidden royalty. You can't.
But I got a little cred, for that one. So that was pretty cool. He came down. He's like, "Whoa, they know who you are, man." That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool coming from your son. Like, that's got to be like, no, most fathers don't have that, man. Like, you got to be like the town mechanic in a small town, or
right.
That's
the mayor or something, right? My dad's the mayor of.
I feel like that's the dragon we're all chasing now.
So you would be kind of almost like, although it's almost even more kind of cool for a teenage kid, I feel like, because you're like the underground, like, fucking boss, dude. Like, you're leading a seedy organization.
Tony Soprano.
Right. The mafia boss.
Right.
You're the one who knocks.
The Godfather over here.
Right.
Have you ever seen the graphics of like what low sec, high sec, and like the meme out there, and he's got the low sec has got like a big beard, big belly, got the gold chain on. I rule this place.
He's just it's pretty funny.
That's
he's
super
doing well,
cool.
though. It's good to see the generations, and it's pretty funny. He'll come down and go, how do you fit ship and do this? And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to figure it out. I think it's pretty simple. And then I'm like,
I see that you went with the shield fit on a E&I. Interesting.
Interesting choice.
Interesting. I see the damage. That's quite a bit. How long are you gonna live? No. Okay. But yeah, no. It's speaking of FanFest though, and live meetups though, there's a cool super project that you are working on. Can you tell us a little bit about this epic board game that apparently has some of the coolest, little miniatures that can be kind of super giganticized, I believe?
Yeah. So, believe it or not, I closed the agency in 2012, and since then I've just been doing like consulting work. Like, people's companies are falling apart and they need somebody to come and figure things out, or start a marketing department and do stuff like that. So I usually do like 6 months, 9 months contracts with different companies. The last one that I had was terrible, and they ended up going bankrupt, and there was fraud involved. And anyway, I made a lot of friends there, and it was a very talented group of people doing stuff. But it was super stressful. The boss would call me at 2:00 in the morning and just rant for an hour and a half, and it was very stressful. And afterwards, I told my wife, I said, I think I can make a living doing something more fun. And so I had never done this before in my career. I just said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to do art, and I'm going to do graphic design and helping people with agencies and things like that. But I'm going to focus on Eve and game art. And then right after I said that, like, no, I'm not even joking, within a week or so, I got contacted by this company in Poland called Titan Forge, and they're like, well, we just Googled Eve art and we found your name, and we went to your portfolio, and here, that's why we're calling you. We're working with CCP. And I'm like, oh, really? What are you doing? And they're like, we're going to do a board game. And I'm like, well, you can't do it if I'm not involved. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you don't have me involved, I don't want to be at FanFest and find out about this and not have had done. That was my fear. I'm going to go to FanFest and they're going to go, we've got a board game, and I'll be like, oh shit, I wasn't part of that. What the hell? That's not cool. So yeah, we talked about it, and we figured out a way to make it work, and that made everybody happy, and we got started. I mean, I went right into it, and like I said earlier in the when we were talking about it, there wasn't a board game last March, and so we just started, and I started designing ship cards because we knew there were going to be spaceships in it, and those drove the development because we didn't know what information needed to be on ship cards. So I just started making stuff up, and then the designers and the game developers would go, well, we're thinking it's more like this and more like that. So I would do that. And then they would be like, well, we think it's more like this and more like that. And then it was like, well, what ships are we going to use and why? And then, I know there's been, people are like, well, why these ships and why not Rifters? Why isn't there a Rifter? And those decisions were all made for various reasons, one of which was, would they make a good miniature? So a lot of Eve ships are very weirdly shaped, as you guys know, and if they're really tiny, the parts will break off. It won't be great coming out of the molds, things like that. So we had to consider that too, and that's pretty much why a rifter is it, because it's got those two prongs coming out of it.
Right, that are pretty kind of easily. Yeah, that's kind of sad. No stabber then probably either, because
I have a USB rifter that only has one of those things because the other one broke off. So yeah, so those kinds of decisions, and then it was, well, we should probably do Tech 2, interceptors, marauders, ships that don't get a lot of love in other ways, because the Rifter's like really over. I mean, it gets a lot of love. It's used a lot, and so what ships are not often used, or don't get as much love, or and then so that's kind of how the list got put together, and ended up with, I think, 36 different ships in the core game. And they started developing, and then we started putting how many cards, and then I could still remember when I had gotten through illustrating all the ship cards, and they're like, well, now it's time to do faction development cards and mission cards and strategy cards. And I'm like, good God, how many of those are there? There's close to 500 of those, and each one's going to need an illustration. And like, okay. So yeah, I've been very busy, and then packaging and icons, little icons for everything. Everything needed an icon, and I tried as hard as I could to base those icons on things that were actually in the game. So there was probably half of them I had to create from whole cloth, but half of them are based on something that this obscure AIR system with all the graphics, and it's like, oh, that little icon in the corner looks pretty cool. And one of the funniest things was doing the mineral cards. I think there's 4 minerals, because as you find out, there's like, everybody knows what tritium looks like, and Mexilon and Morphite and all these, but when you really think about it, we don't know what they look like, because the icon for them is this big and there's no bigger version. So it's like this little tiny speck of color with a little bit of crystal looking thing in it, and that's all. The best that CCB has is a 250 by 250 pixel icon of it. And so that, I won't tell you how much consternation and how long it took me to get. I want everything to be right, because I have a lot of respect for the community, and I'm a passionate player, and I want to make sure everything's correct. So I'm trying to use the right ships in the right circumstances and do the right effects and everything. But those goddamn minerals, getting those right, man, I sweated the colors and the textures and all that. That I probably put more time into getting the minerals right than I did, illustrating the curse or the marauders, because I just wanted to make sure they were correct. Not hear it back from somebody later like, that is not that font. And it was not easy. It was funny because there were things like that that I didn't expect to run into along the way, that were weirdly time consuming. You think, oh, you're just going to do four cards for minerals. That doesn't sound all that hard. It ended up taking me a good week and a half probably to do that. And then we showed up at FanFest with it, and that was a big, like, okay, how is this going to be received? Like, how are players, real players, going to react to it? And I know Titan Forge was nervous, because they have Eve players there too, and that's how they got involved and why they went after it, because they have Eve players on staff, and they were super nervous too, because they had not met a lot of Eve players either, and it was, I mean, the feedback was positive. Everybody was super stoked. It was great. Nobody was complaining. Everybody was super excited about it, and that really helped fuel us and get us through that, because it was really great to hear the feedback from everybody and how excited everyone was for it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm like super. I'm a huge board gamer. I like Catan. I like Twilight Imperium.
Boy, is he ever.
Like, hey man,
he has his own rules for how dice are being rolled and shit, dude.
Hey,
I played what was it?
We played Catan.
Catan, and this fucker has all these extra rules and weird shit going on, and I'm
I
like,
don't have
bro,
extra
calm down.
rules. I'm just
Calm
saying,
down.
you cock dice.
I was
You
just
got
trying to play a
cock
regular
dice
game
rules.
here.
No, but it is serious fucking. No, it's
been-
serious business. It's serious fucking business, man.
It is.
Fuck around.
It has been quite an eye-opening experience going through this, and having been a gamer, but not really a board gamer, and getting the feedback and the comments in the Kickstarter, and hearing people complain about the weirdest things, and just being like, well, when I play board games, I don't know about you guys, you're usually with a group of friends, and you all kind of go like, well, we don't like that part of the game, so we're just not even going to use that part.
That does happen, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we have like 4 hours here, guys. Why don't we make a longer? So instead of 10 victory points, why don't we make it 18? And everybody goes, oh, that sounds great. We'll be able to get Titans into it. And I'm trying to tell some of the commenters, like, don't worry about the length of the game. You can make it shorter. Instead of 10, go for 6. If you only have an hour, play an hour's game, and don't sweat it. Make up your own rules. You're amongst friends. If you guys all agree.
Yeah, that's what house
Doesn't
rules
matter.
and stuff. Like anybody who board games know that there's. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how fucking Monopoly got fucked. Actually, it went from like an hour-long game to like
we don't talk
5
about
years.
Monopoly in my household anymore.
five
I'm not allowed
fucking
to
years.
play it.
Exactly. Us either. Yeah.
Free parking does not have any fucking money on it. Never
Or Risk.
has, never should.
I'm not allowed to
until-
play Risk
Oh,
either.
Risk is
I
another
can't play
one.
Risk or Monopoly. I'm not allowed.
I've had a little brother throw the board for Risk.
No, yeah, people hate me when I play those games, and I just I'm
very competitive when it comes to board games. So I'm super excited about this. So it's Eve, War of New Eden.
We're gonna have to
really
stream
fucking
us
good.
playing it frozen.
Yes,
we're gonna
gonna have to do like I'm gonna want to do like this is how you play the. Like you got those YouTube how-tos. Yep. Maybe I can become famous as to how to play. Eve War for New Eden, because this looks really good. It's on Kickstarter right now. Just look up Eve Online board game, and you'll get like right to on Google or any other search engine. You can get right to the Kickstarter. You've already raised up $546,000, a little bit more. 2,450 backers.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, no,
the other thing,
the pledge goal was only at 53,000, which you do smart, when you're doing Kickstarter, you want to make it lower than what you're expecting, so your stretch goals can get you to what you really want to make.
That was all Titan Forge doing that. But, the exciting thing for me is the idea that, there's going to be several thousand Eve players who get a box in the mail. It's going to have hundreds of miniatures and all the ship cards and a really cool combat rule system, which I'm very excited about. And I was telling the guys in the fleet the other day, I'm like, so thousands of E players are going to have hundreds of ship miniatures and combat rules. How long before we start seeing real life meet up alliance tournaments and things? Put your fleet together, put some card decks together, and then just sit across the table from each other and have combat, and whoever wins, moves on. There's so many things that we're a very creative group, community, and so what are we going to come up with? I'm very excited about seeing what people come up with, and then painting and doing 40K stuff with them. And I know a lot of people are very excited about painting the miniatures, and I'm very anxious to see some of that work too. So
yeah, I'm going to
awesome.
I'm going to have my best friend. He paints miniatures. He paints all my board games. I'm gonna have to get him to paint these.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to see what people do with them.
Yeah, I'm excited. Right. There's the 200% size version. That's something that I kind of wanna get a hold of at some point. I went with the veterans so I get the whole setup, the whole game for the thing, and then probably later I'll take a look at if there's some 200% size things out there. There's some really great different kind of things that you can kind of get different collector's editions, which do have like the one single ship that's at like a 200% size, I believe, right?
Yeah, one of each. So in the core game, the ships, there's like 10 interceptors. So you get 10 of the maledictions. 10 little maledictions. So what we did with the collector's editions was one of each ship type at 200%, so that they would be big enough to paint. So we figured people would want the 200s to paint, but not to play with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense a lot.
But then there was a lot of people who were like, "You guys want the whole thing?" Twice as big. So
I just want to point out, chat, real quick. I know we may have been ignoring you a little bit, but we have a very important guest on here. But Penitent Fitz Covert is looking for a cat ear stretch goal, and
that's awesome.
And I happen to have some cat ears right here.
Oh yeah, there we go. Unbelievable. Look, that's how you get cat ears and Eve. You just gotta.
It looks 100%
create
natural.
your own podcast.
100% natural cat ears.
This is normal. That's what people have, right?
That's totally normal.
Yeah.
Not Eve.
All right, guys. I apologize, but I'm going to have to wrap up.
Yeah, no, not a problem. We are actually 30 minutes over here, so yeah, thank you so much.
Once you start talking about Eve, you can do it forever.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out to anybody who is interested in anything Rixx Javix, artwork, the game board, YouTube videos, everything, all that stuff you can get on Eve Agenda. It's on the description pad for Stay Frosty in game, or it's Eve Agenda, one word. You can find that links, and all those links and videos and everything are all on there. The artwork links are all on there and everything. So it's a great resource. It's a fun time to just go to that site and hang out. So,
and we'll get that into the description as well,
awesome.
So you can link to that. And yeah, this has been really awesome.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me and for hanging out for an hour and a half. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much.
This has been super cool, and I hope to see you out and about. I've already got my tickets for next Fan Fest, so awesome. Hopefully see you there, if not sooner, at some other Eve meetup of stuff. But yeah, this has been really epic, and really good luck on selling epic amount of these game boards. I know I'm going to get some of my buddies to buy up this game, and all your activities that you do with Stay Frosty. This has been super cool.
Awesome.
So at the end here, I do want to give, is there anything specific? I guess we've kind of touched base on a lot of it, but is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about? Is there any other events that Stay Frosty does, or anything you want to talk about with your alliance or your corporation or websites?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered everything. Saturday, April 20th will be the FFA. It's in. So I'll be announcing more of that, and CCP will probably be promoting it. But that's on Saturday, April 20th, and it's just look forward to seeing everybody in space and having some good fights. So that's all. I think we've covered pretty much everything. The Kickstarter is be sure to note there's only another day and a half for the Kickstarter, and then that'll be the end of that. So if you're going to get your pledge in, make sure you do that soon. Before it goes away, so you never know. I mean, we're hoping that at some point in the future there will be retail versions available, but we can't guarantee that, so we don't know.
Oh, so there's not a guarantee of beyond the Kickstarter of a retail unless.
No, I mean a lot of people have asked me, or I'll just wait, until and buy it at a store, and I'm like, well. I mean, we all hope that happens. I do, and we have been talking to distributors and stuff, but we don't know for sure. There's no guarantee yet. We don't have anything locked in yet. So, fingers crossed that does happen. But it's quite possible that Kickstarter supporters will be the only ones who get a copy of the game. It might happen. So, it's right now the only sure way to be sure you're going to get one.
So that's huge encouragement. So I'll make sure to get this one out a little bit early here. Hopefully that. You said a day and a half that you've got here.
You're also not paying retail for it, so it's a drastically reduced price too, because once it goes to retail, they're going to mark that up. So.
Yeah. So this project will only be funded if it reaches its goal by Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 12 p.m. CST time. For what I'm seeing here, so yeah, that's
it is.
Now we did meet the goal. The goal is met.
it is funded and it will be done, and it will be a real thing. So we're good to go on it.
So get your pledge in by the end of this is what, February 21st. So yeah, like right around the corner here, guys. So highly encourage that. We're also doing our, of course, the EVE Online meetup, Madtown meetup here in Madison, Wisconsin, May 4th.
That's awesome.
We're just going to be hanging out at a bar arcade and having fun, and then we might have some activities a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the after party kind of stuff that we might kind of do. But that we want to make sure that there was one specific main event that's going to the bar arcade from 5 p.m. to midnight. We'll be there at IO Arcade in Madison, Wisconsin. And we're going to have a lot of fun just playing old school video arcade games, quarter-fed machines, and hanging out. And then there's pizza, there's drinks, it's bar arcade, so we'll be drinking it up a little bit. It's 21 and over, so I do apologize for anybody under 21. This is not the event for you, unfortunately. But once you hit 21, if you don't want to drink, you don't have to do that. You just have to be 21 to get into the bar. So other than that, thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for coming on to the show here tonight, and have a great night, everyone.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Good talk.
Good night, New Eden.
Good night,
Yeah, fly
everybody.
safe. Good night.